live from the Money Show in Orlando, Florida. I'm Adrian Manns. I'm here today with Michael Scott of Cannapreneur Partnership, or Cannapreneur Partners, right? So he's the CEO, and he has got some exciting stuff to talk about in terms of investing in the cannabis space. And I know that this has been sort of a hot topic for a long time.
Sure.
But your take on this is a little different than what most people are used to visiting, right?
So I find when it comes to investing, there's kind of two worlds, right? There's public markets, information is readily available, you can read what the analysts say, you can Google and get lots of information. And then there's the private markets, and those two markets are often non-correlated, which is why it's good to diversify between public and private. But what I'll tell you is in the public space, if you look at cannabis for the last 6 to 9 months, people are kind of fearful because the markets have really improved. A lot of the biggest players have seen 60-80% declines in their stock price. And so what I always tell investors is you got to remember a lot of that's driven by supply and demand, right? There was a lot of investors chasing a small number of quality companies, and so really kind of created a bubble that didn't burst. On the private markets, it's more about the fundamentals, and as long as there's people willing to come through your doors to exchange $1 for the product, and that's a profitable undertaking, there's amazing investment opportunities.
So who's sort of your target audience for investing in this?
So, we work with a number of different groups, right? So my favorite groups of investors to work with, believe it or not, is actually mass affluent, which is kind of the smaller investors. They're kind of my secret weapon in the space, I often say, because number one, they're more eager investors, they're faster check writers, and they help kind of build the investment base for a lot of my offerings, because the other types of groups that we work with are like family offices or private equity groups, and they won't come into something when it's too risky. So they like to see a base of investors in first. So because what they get is a lot of times the biggest failure rate is a business not raising enough capital. So they want to be on the tail end of a lot of raises in many cases. But we'll work with mass affluent investors, ultra high net worth, private equity groups and family offices, and also registered investment advisors. So basically those are the prototypical side on the investment side of the groups that we're working with. So we partner with those individuals, but then we also partner, hence the name Cannapreneur Partners, with the actual operators. So we're focused on excellence-driven, 1%ers of the world. We're not operators, but we invest in and find those amazing operators.
So how would you sort of characterize the volatility? The volatility on the public stuff has been crazy. And we're intraday order flow traders, so we loved it. But I know a lot of folks who went sort of longer term didn't love it so much. Is there less volatility on the private side, would you say?
So yes, I would say less volatility, but higher in different types of risk, right? It's kind of how I would define it. And my predictions on the public market is there's going to be continued volatility. And when this comes to the U.S. exchanges, I think there will also be a big bubble and a lot of volatility, because when you understand the public markets, investors and the markets overall, they don't like uncertainty. Cannabis has a lot of uncertainty. We all have to remember it's a federally illegal thing still. On the private side, it's different, right? So you're not going to see as much volatility. I'll give an example of something we were doing on the private side. Dispensaries in Massachusetts are very hot, right? So a dispensary, it's about $1 million to launch a dispensary. By the time that dispensary is operating, just in its first year, it's already worth 10 to 20 million based on the average comps in Massachusetts. The average dispensary in Massachusetts is doing about 20 million a year, 15 to 20 million a year. They sell for 1 to 2 times gross revenue. So imagine an investment opportunity where investors can come in on something that costs $1.5 million to launch, and then immediately goes from 10 to 20 million in enterprise value that you could in theory sell, or you capture amazing income along the way. I'll give an example. In these dispensary models, these investors are getting better than equity type yields. I'm talking 15, 20% income yields. And we're able to secure the actual dispensaries, the land, etc. So what I say is there's more risk, but if you're smart in the private space, and this is what we do, is we try to mitigate that risk through proper deal structures, understanding the regs, etc.
Okay. And if somebody wants to educate themselves on what it is that you do and how to get involved with you, where do they go? How do they go about learning more?
So we've got a pretty robust website. So cannapreneurpartners.com. We put a lot of content out out there. We're adding more educational content. I do a ton of speaking events to kind of get the education out there. One of the gaps of the cannabis industry is there's a lot of just false information out there. So we want to keep putting good content out there to help educate the world that cannabis is actually not all bad. There's actually a lot of good to cannabis. In fact, I believe that investors are going to do well in cannabis because there's two undeniable facts that the world will figure out. Number one, from an adult use standpoint, it's less harmful than alcohol. Medically, it is undeniable. The world will look at it as a freaking miracle drug. The data is coming out in this country. It's just been taking a long time because it was federally illegal. But now there's such a demand for this marketplace. There's a lot of research that's coming out.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot,
Scott.
Appreciate it.
Check out the website. And live from Orlando, this has been Adrian Mans for The Money Show.
Thank you.